Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Shane Wilson, the CIO of Center College. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlynx.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and a hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLynx intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 security operations center, we use a combination of AI and cybersecurity technicians to see when a hacker successfully bypassed your security. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlynx.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Shane, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us about Center College and your role there as CIO?
So Center College is a small liberal arts institution in about the center of the state of Kentucky. We're in a small town called Danville, about 22,000 people or so forth. Center is 1,400 plus students. We're pretty well respected academically. I think we generally rank in the top 50 institutions, give or take. We also are well respected as far as our value for the education that you get and for many of our programs, including our study abroad, which we're usually in the top 10, sometimes the top 5 for our study abroad programs. And my role here is I am the Chief Information Officer for the college and responsible for IT on campus.
I love it. Now, when you say a small liberal arts college, about how large are we talking student body wise, I guess?
So it's about 1,400 students, give or take, on any given time. I think we're just above that right now. We like being in this range. We want to be 1,400 to 1,450 right now. We may have ambitions to go about 1,500, but we don't really want to be a 2,000 or so forth. We have a very specific mission of small classes, very personal touch. Almost all of our students live on campus if they're not away at an abroad program. And so it's very much about campus and knowing your professors and knowing the staff that you work with and, being in a class of 7 to 10 students and so forth. Many of our students have been to our professors' homes, not just their office hours and so forth. So it's a very personal educational experience.
Wow. So 1,400. Yeah, no, that is very personal. 1,400 to 1,440, 1,450 student body. What about faculty and staff?
So our faculty and staff, we have about just under 500 employees. Our faculty are somewhere in the range of 150, 160. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's in that range. Then the rest are, hourly and salary staff and so forth of that 500.
Okay. Super cool. So, I mean, that is quite that's a small campus. So let's break that down though. I mean, you're the first CIO we've had in the academic space. So can you take us through some of the kind of unique challenges? Because I mean, it is unique, right? You've got the student body versus, most companies, they've got their employees, they've got their network. You can lock it down. You can do your thing. You own it, control it. But now you're facing this. You've got the student body. What position do you take in terms of protecting them, providing them with access to stuff? How does this work? And then managing that with your faculty and staff.
So we're primarily a single location, which helps, although our campus is about 200 acres and we have around 50 buildings on it. We have a diversity of kind of infrastructure that we have to provide because I have everything from a regular sort of office building for staff, as well as libraries, as well as science buildings and football fields and baseball fields. And so we have all kinds of kind of support issues from that standpoint. The other big thing, though, with higher education, one, we have we have 1,400 students, give or take, that are living on our campus with 3,500 devices that we don't own, that sit on a portion of our network. And so we have to keep our network secure. We have to keep some things separate, but we also have to provide them access to all of the resources that they need, not just from the internet, but on-prem and our faculty. The biggest challenge is we are all about open sharing of information. So unlike a bank or a hospital, I can't just say, okay, these are the only machines on my network. They're only allowed to do X, Y, and Z, and it's all nice and locked down. We have to balance that sharing of information, which we value, with security, for example. And so cybersecurity, I know in my career at Center has gone from almost an afterthought about a couple of viruses up to something, we deal with every day. I mean, we experience attacks from the outside, or at least probing attempts every single day. In fact, most people, when I start giving them the statistics about it, they get kind of surprised
Yeah.
of what we see on a daily basis. And so in my time, and I started at Center in 1996, I've been here for 28 years, and all the way from entry level desktop support to in charge of the infrastructure to now CIO. And cybersecurity is definitely one of the biggest changes I've seen in the industry, taking it a lot more seriously, being more locked down than we used to, and all the cultural issues that we've had, with faculty and so forth who are used to this open sharing of, yes, we want to be open sharing, but we have to pay attention to certain things because, our systems have their data in it just as well as the student data in it. They don't want that released. We don't want that released. Our marketing department doesn't want to see us on the news for bad reasons, all sorts of things. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a real challenge that other organizations just don't have. You don't have 3 to 4,000 unmanaged devices that you've got to provide access to, not just internet, but like you said, shared resources. So, that's a really unique challenge. I mean, and I think for a lot of people, it's kind of a crazy thought, right? So how do you let those devices in, in a for those shared resources, in a safe way? I mean, it's a heck of a challenge you got there.
yeah, I've talked with many friends who work in other industries, and sometimes, and I've known a few people who have changed into higher ed, and that's one of their biggest like adjustments that they have to make is that idea is like, okay, yes, I need to secure it, but I can't stop the mission of the institution. Like one of the biggest things for me has been being able to look at Center as an institution, understand the mission of the institution, and seeing how IT fits in the overall mission. Because we're not a cybersecurity shop. We're not a hosting provider. We're here to support the mission of the college, and we have to understand what that mission is in order to support it well. So,
Well, I think that's where, I mean, you can't use kind of the old traditional security mindset for these modern situations, right? You can't just lock down the network on, and devices and say, nope, you can't, you can only have these applications that we approve and, and kind of only whitelist and blacklist stuff. And you can't do that anymore. So I think this is where I think the technology has come a long way and helps support this now where you have advanced EDRs that are AI backed that can now say, hey, you know what? That's weird. Adobe shouldn't be encrypting files. Let me stop that. Right. So now you've got tools and resources that didn't even exist 10 years ago, let alone 15, 20 years ago. And so at least there is that kind of advancement in technology to assist you.
yeah, the moving from the idea of lists of bad actors and bad things to anomaly detection has been a really big game changer. It has allowed us to keep as much openness as we can while also protecting the data that we need to.
Yeah. Well, you said you've been there for 28 years. I mean, we get a lot of people from very diverse backgrounds, and it's always fun to hear how they got into IT and kind of their path. I think you're also the first to be, to start out your career in IT at one location and go from help desk to CIO. I think you've nailed two firsts now for the podcast. So
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it's I started out and I really I it's funny. So when I go and I talk to other people, one of the things that happens is they're like, "Well, how long have you been at Center?" And there's a part of me that kind of pauses a little bit and almost is apologetic about it because everybody now stays 2 to 5 years at a place, and that's really common. And it's like if you, it's almost that feeling. Nobody's ever said it, nobody's ever, but you myself, I almost feel like, yeah, I've been here a long time, or I usually make a joke about how long I've been at a place to kind of explain. But, I started out as a college student trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an engineer. That wasn't really what I wanted. I ended up getting a degree in business management with a lot of marketing experience in there as well. Figuring I need a degree. I don't know really what I want to do today. And I kind of lucked into IT when I was in college and discovered I was good at it and I enjoyed it, which was really important to me. I've always considered myself very lucky that not only do I get to do something that, pays the bills and allows me to have the life that I want to have, but that I enjoy. So many people just do a job because that's what pays the bills and that's important. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can get to do both, it helps tremendously. And so I got out of college. I luckily got this opportunity at Center. Started out literally at the bottom. Within 7 months, oddly, I ended up with the opportunity to take over the network, running the network as a network administrator, which in retrospect is kind of ridiculous. But IT was different then. I mean,
Was.
back in the late 90s, it was old, kind of new, and you were trying to figure it out. And liberal arts institutions weren't as well organized and regimented as, big, research one institutions and so forth. And so I got that opportunity and I made the most of it because I enjoyed learning and I made mistakes and was given the opportunity to learn and grow and kind of become a professional. Um, Over my career, I've had many career highlights. In 2000, we held a vice presidential debate, and in 2012, we did it again. We did so well, we were able to do it again. No institution as small as Center has ever held a vice presidential debate.
Oh,
And we also did so well at it that the Commission on the Commission on Presidential Debates then recommended us to others that you need to talk to Center about how to do this process. And so
that's
that
awesome.
was really gratifying and it was an amazing experience.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit because I think I don't think a lot of people get to have that experience. And I think there's a it comes with a ton of questions. So can you walk us through like one, how does that even come to be? Is that something that you kind of apply for? You throw your name in the hat and they're like, all right. Is how's that work?
So our previous president, this was really our college president at the time. This was really important to him as an opportunity for raise our, national standing. We're a small institution, we're a good academic institution, but again, we're small. And so this was an idea. You apply. In the past, the Commission on Presidential Debates had been formed as an outside party to actually produce and host the debates. It was a nonpartisan group. They made sure basically it all technically went off okay. So you sign a contract with them. At that point, you're effectively working for them. You also pay them for the honor to host the debate, and you pick up the tab for all the things that you have to do. But that's part of the experience. So it's not an insignificant outlay of funds and time. Um,
Can
I know, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I ask you before we get too much further, about like what's the range? Are we talking something like this cost Center like $1 million?
A few millions
A
of
few
dollars.
million, a few like 3 to 5 maybe.
Yeah, 3 to 5 million, something like that. At
Okay.
the time. I don't know what the last one was, but yeah, 3 to 5 million.
Okay.
And
Wow.
and the commission, because they're a separate entity, that's how they then produce all of those fees go into the production of it. And
Gotcha.
they do allow you to have sponsorship and so forth so that you can recover and cover some of your costs.
Got it.
So
Okay. No, please continue. No, you were
So when you sign this, you're basically given a set of requirements. We need these rooms, and they are for these things, and so forth. But they're a little opaque, to be honest. They're just names of rooms and how many people and how many phones and what kind of thing needs to be there. And you can negotiate with them, so forth. But over time, you figure out what these rooms are. Basically, what we did was we have a very nice Center for the Arts. The Norton Center for the Arts at Center College has been around since the 60s. It's a very nice structure. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright building or from that design firm. And so we had a good hosting facility. And we also had other facilities nearby, athletic facilities and so forth, for large spaces that we could have media. Because you host the debate in your facility, and then you host on campus 3,500 journalists and crew and so forth from newspapers and radio and TV and cable news, and not just national, but international. I think we had 18 or 20 countries represented as part of our media crew on campus. It was every day you were talking to, I was leading tours of tech people coming in the lead up to it. We found out we found out on October 1st, 2011, that we were going to be hosting the next year, October 11th, 2020 or 2012. And from that point, it was basically a second job for me for a year because I led our telecommunications effort as part of the overall team because there were many parts, many moving parts to this project. And so you were constantly doing tours and figuring out, okay, we're doing cabling here, we're selecting this room for this task, and we're making sure it's got the right facilities and so forth. I had one of the more interesting pieces I had to do. I had to work closely with Secret Service, and that was really extraordinary. They were very professional and very good to work with. They care a lot about the work that they do. I was very impressed with everyone that we worked with Secret Service. And so I got to learn things that, they had to clear us all. I knew things about the security plan, not everything, but I knew things about the security plan that lots of people on campus didn't know. I knew where the observers were on the roof lines and things like that. I knew all kinds of interesting little things. Um, but they were really good to work with. The media was very good to work with. Everybody's under a lot of pressure. Once you get to debate day, it's a long day. That day started for me at about, I think, 5 in the morning. I showed up at work at 5 in the morning, got inside the security perimeter, and then I think I went home about 2:30 the next morning.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a very long day. And I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. I mean, it's a career highlight because it's unlike anything else. It's not like a big sporting event. It's not like these other things because you have these people from all over the world. You've got, and on top of all the media, you've got all the politicians, all of the representatives of the different parties, all of these things going on as well. One of the most gratifying things for me was at the end of the night or towards the end of the night, I think around midnight. I was walking around and I had representatives from both parties, from about 10 news agencies, cable TV, all the different ones, who tracked me down and thanked me for the work that we had done to support their efforts from an IT perspective. And I remember thinking at the time when it was happening, this is so unfair because there's so many people that we're doing this work it's really unfair that I'm the one getting all of this and that they're not all here to get it because we had probably, I think on debate day we had 25 or 30 people on site doing IT support of all forms. So it was a lot of work. I'm really glad I did it. I don't know how many more I'd want to do because it is a lot of work. So. But
So would you host, say, like a presidential debate, or is that even on the table, or is there different criteria for that?
so I think we did apply for a presidential debate and we got the vice presidential debate in 2012. Um, I think they just wanted a larger place to host the
Makes sense.
presidential debate. And
Yeah.
there's even more, security requirements and things like that they have to take into account. So I can't say why we didn't get a presidential debate. Honestly, our debate was amazing and I wouldn't trade it. Another one of my favorite experiences was so we held our debate on a Tuesday night, and then the next Saturday night, uh, I got to see the front of the Norton Center for the Arts, a shot of the Norton Center as the cold opening shot to Saturday Night Live. Because of course
That's
they
cool.
always do their Saturday Night Live opening bid as whatever with whatever debate. And that was, and you could tell like it had all our signage on it. You knew this was us, and that was really amazing to get to do. And it was really cool when, everybody's like, well, where are you? And what are you? Oh, this debate is like, oh yeah, Saturday Night Live, go back and look. And I'm like, oh yeah. So,
That's
so
cool.
that's been, I've had a lot of, most of them smaller than that. I've had a lot of career highlights, but that's definitely doing that debate in particular was definitely one of them.
Well,
And
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, given kind of the career trajectory there for you, that is such a big event where, I mean, we're all so used to our little IT bubbles, right? You got your day-to-day job, you're doing your thing. I don't care what level you're at, whether it's, the entry level or you're all the way at the top. You've got a very specific day. This is so very different from that with, coordinate with so many different people. It's such a unique kind of leadership opportunity to coordinate with journalists, with Secret Service, with other IT service providers, right? I mean, because you guys didn't have whatever it was, 25, 30 extra IT hands,
Yep.
in house. So you had to go find those people, bring them in, get the, all of this support to make what you would think would be a pretty easy thing to just like, oh, here's the stage, go ahead and, like bring in
Right.
your cameras and go for it, right? But to have it take a year of planning and coordinating with all these different agencies and people, that's a unique opportunity there.
Yeah, it was actually really energizing because, we all get kind of in a rut in our job. No matter how great our jobs are, at times we get in a rut. And it was like being able to step outside your job for a while and do a whole different job. And for me, normally at that point in my career, I was a very, hard technical person. I did all of the, basically network engineering and all these things that were all just big, hard technical problems. And I had done leadership things on campus, but in a smaller way. And this was an opportunity for me to step back. I was the leader of that part of the team. I was reporting to other, as part of the other structure and so forth. But I got to experience that leading this team, and it grew over time. It started as a small team, and as we got closer to debate day, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I found it really rewarding. I was it helped me in confidence as well because it was a big project and it was successful. And I got to see he's like, yes, you are the person that can, stand in front of people and report. You are the person who can answer the hard question and make the hard choice at times where that if this choice, like we were presented with a couple of issues like day before the debate where I had to make choices about where we were going to put our resources. And I knew that if that choice was the wrong one in retrospect, it could be bad. But I weighed my choices. I made it my choice for a very specific reason and crossed my fingers and hope for the best. And I was right in the end. And so that was a really good experience for me. And I really do credit that experience. That was sort of my beginning on the trail to my current position as CIO, honestly. So.
That's
And I
cool.
will say though, the day after the debate, a lot of that team was gone. I'm looking around going, wait, where's my team to do all this stuff? Because you have to
Yeah,
take it all apart afterwards. And
yeah.
so
A, a bit of phantom limb, yeah, syndrome, right?
exactly, it's like,
Like,
wait a minute,
where's her?
where did everybody go?
That's right. Yeah, right. They had their party. Now you get to clean up. That's right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's great. Well, you know what? I gotta ask because you were there. in IT now, you're going back what 28 years. So you started there in like about 97-ish, right? Something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Okay. So at that time, talking about your network engineering, I'm trying to think. I don't think mesh networking was really much of a thing back then. I mean, that came out a little later, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, we didn't even have wireless until the early 2000s, for example. I remember putting in the first wireless access points on our campus. And yeah, mesh networking, several kind of networking principles that we have today aren't necessarily there. Some of the things, some of the basics are the same. They're bigger, they're faster, they're whatever. But there's definitely a lot of technology change over that time. Um, I also remember like early in the 2000s, we had these big chassis core switches that used to run our campus network. And honestly, now our core of our campus network are basically two 1-unit pizza boxes, which cost probably a third of what those enormous chassis did back in the day. So we've seen some gains in efficiency, but honestly, cybersecurity is so much more of a concern that anything we've saved in one part just got absorbed in another, in a way.
Yeah, it's really funny because I think we're both we've been in tech long enough to remember back in the early days, our job was really to keep to get tech working and to keep it working. And now the tech works really well, and it's gotten so much more stable, right? So now everybody expects it to be up 100% of the time, and the stress that we had even a decade ago of keeping everything up all the time was its own stress and challenge. Now it's keeping it safe all the time, right? That's the stress and challenge of the modern day stress and challenge, not the network's going to stay up like, oh, and then it's a quick reboot or something and it's fine. But things, perform so much better now than they used to, and they're so much more stable. The computers, the networking, all of it. It's kind of fun to have seen that
Mhm.
improvement. Even if we're just talking networking, it's been fantastic. And I kind of got to wonder, like going back all that time on and center. I mean, what kind of network, what kind of bandwidth was a 1,014? Because I'm assuming you're probably still 1,400, student body back then. So, what kind of bandwidth did you have, like when you were just barely getting Wi-Fi? Surely a T1 isn't the thing, but those were costly as heck. I mean, those were so
Well,
expensive back then. So, what did you
when
guys do back then for internet?
so when I first started at Center College, which was 1996, we had two T1 lines. So we had 3 megabit of internet connection. Now, and we had some 100 meg fiber links and we had some 10 meg fiber links and things like that. But yeah, I mean, in the 2000s, once we started getting wireless and so forth, I think we were at 45 megabit or something like that, which sounds ridiculous nowadays.
Now, yeah.
And the funny thing is the reverse is true as well. Like if you had gone and told me in 1998, this is what you're going to be doing in 2025. And yeah, I know 2025 is a long time from now. It sounds crazy, that, oh yeah, you'll have 40 gigabit of bandwidth in the core of your network, and the slow buildings have 10 or 20 gig, and you've got you know, 5 gigabit of internet connection, and then you have a second 2 gig of internet connection that's just for backup in case the first one goes down. If you had told me that, I'm like, that sounds ridiculous. You're just making stuff up now at this point.
That's
And
right.
so it is a different world. Like when I talk, and it's really funny. You're getting old when all your stories start with back in the day. Unfortunately, a lot of my stories start with back in the day. And I tell people who haven't been in this kind of environment, all they know is the cloud and the current sort of bandwidth levels and the things that we know today. And I don't mean that as a criticism, that's just their experience. That's what they know.
That's there back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. They're back there. One of these days, they'll be there back in the day. And so for me, when I'm talking about these things, I also I also want to be cognizant of I don't want this to be well, back in the day things used to be great. Because let's be honest, it's better now. It's
Yeah.
way better now. But I usually try to use them as an illustration of this is how we got here. Like this is important to understand. Just like just like it's really important to understand your history, it's important to understand where IT was and why certain things were done and how you got here. You don't all you want to be moving your programs forward all the time. Like the one thing I've been really big on, and even throughout my whole career, even when I was younger, I kept thinking, okay, look, you need to read and you need to study and you need to be looking at what's coming, and you don't have to be on the bleeding edge, but you have to be aware and you have to be evaluating how your systems are architect and how they operate and say, okay, this is where we are. What should we think about where we're going? And sometimes you're going to look at it and go, what changes need to be made? Is this good enough? And sometimes the answer is going to be yes, because you don't have money or time or whatever, you are where you need to be. And sometimes it's no, you need to move this down the road. And it would be easy, especially as you get farther along in your career, just to say, it's fine. I don't need to be making changes to things. And you don't want to make changes just for change's sake, but you do need to keep it moving forward, or you will find yourself in a hole that's hard to dig out of.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I think that we're in an industry where for our lifetime, and pretty much everybody, so we've all, everybody's seen the kind of path and the speed at which technology increases. I think it's very obvious. And so everybody in tech, whether it's on the IT side, just security side, whatever side, wherever you may land, I think everybody's kind of acutely aware of the fact that you have to stay up on technology, lest you be let pass by, and then you'll find yourself just worthless, and then you out of a job, or or just unable to provide value to anybody, right? I mean, what we knew 10 years ago does not help us today at all. Like, we don't use it. Like, it's fun to talk about back in the day. It's
right.
really interesting and it's fun to reminisce, but it's really about keeping up with technology. And I think the interesting part of where we are today in technology, with where you've got AI coming in and the cybersecurity, where we were was that it was easy to know basically everything you needed to know and be up on it and be up, and then as technology grew and sped up
Yeah.
and sped up, now it is a real challenge to even stay up on what's happening with AI, or what the implications are for cybersecurity, for network security, for the network, for where does this take us, right? It's hard to keep up with that stuff, and the tools that come out, and how do we apply those? What should we be doing, right? It's a lot. So, how do you do it, and what's your advice to people?
So I do as much reading as I can. I try to be a part of a lot of different groups. One of the things that I started actually recently in the last year or so, not just for myself, but also for others, is I've started hosting a higher education cybersecurity group. We're a member of a group called HES, which is all small liberal arts. It's a national group. It's a buying consortium, basically, and I know the leader of that group, and so I offered to do that for that, and I also do the same thing for a local Kentucky group as well, for all the independent schools in Kentucky. And it's not me going and making presentations every month. We have a meeting for about an hour and a half every single month. We have an agenda that we try to decide on as a group, and the idea is that my goal is to be the moderator,
Mhm.
is to have an agenda and work through that and have everybody collaborate, because I know I have always been willing to help other people. And because I know sooner or later I'm going to need their help, and I can learn from them and they can learn from me. And so that's one of the things recently that I've done. I found it really valuable. There's been some really good things to be part of groups. In higher education, there's a security trust group called REN ISAC. ISACs were a framework that were developed in the late 90s. I think they were chartered by the Clinton administration. And there's ISACs for different verticals, like healthcare and civil entities and Microsoft and some different things like that. And being part of these sharing groups and being, doing your own research, but being part of these sharing groups are a really big deal, especially when it comes to cybersecurity, because there's so much going on that we can't be an expert at every aspect of it. and especially even just IT in general, you can't be an expert in every aspect. So for me, those opportunities to share knowledge, to get knowledge from other people. I mean, I've met through some of these groups, I know people who are absolutely amazing. I mean, I consider them far better technical people than myself. And that's the point, isn't it? You want to be with the best people. That's what you want to do. Leave that ego at the door. You want to find people smarter than you and get to know them.
Yeah, I think is it Warren Buffett who said that if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly.
I don't ever want to be the smartest man in the room.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, I know people much better than me, and I'm really happy about that. So
That's fantastic. Well, let me ask you, I do like to ask people what advice would you give to somebody looking to get into tech today?
So I think in a certain way it was easier when I got in because tech was simpler, but it was more open to coming in and basically doing an internship effectively. You apprenticed and you learned on the job a lot of times because there weren't academic programs and things like that. Get as much experience as you can. I've run into a few hiring situations over the last few years. I've given some advice to people who are trying to break into tech. If you're struggling, if you have the means, take some classes, do some certifications and so forth to try to get that onto your resume. If you have the opportunity to work with nonprofits who just need help and they're willing to take whatever they can get, go work, get that experience, start learning what it's like to work with people with technology. Because yes, the technology is important, but it's the human technology interface that will get you farther in your career, to understand that you're doing this for a reason to help people and build that empathy and that professionalism. Because I think sometimes that's one of the things that some of our people miss, is that they become so focused on the technology that they lose that professionalism part of the job. And I think those are some opportunities to break in. Just basically just be persistent and just keep trying to find your niche to get your foot in the door, to get experience, and then use that experience to get the next experience and so forth. So.
Couldn't agree more. I think that is excellent advice. Couldn't agree more. So, Shane, this has been a blast. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and more about Center College?
So, Center College, like I said, is in Danville, Kentucky. We have website www.center.edu. That is basically where you would go for most of the information. You can find my information on there as well in our directory. I'll be in the IT department. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I don't have my link in front of me right now to tell you, but
we'll link it.
We'll link it. And I would say that's one of the best ways that you can find me online and find out more about me.
Well, Shane, thanks for coming on, and until next time.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.